Welcome, everybody, back to the podcast. I am delighted today that Nil Buckley has joined us, and welcome. Thank you for being here with me.
Thank you for having me.
I will just say, as a little intro, that I first heard of you from actually somebody in Texas because I
Mhm.
was asking a psychologist there who's been on my show about who the world's best domestic violence experts are, and she's like, "Oh, there's one in Colorado Springs. Her name's Nil Buckley," and I'm like, "You're kidding?" She's like, right down the proverbial
Yes.
road, right down the highway. So I had the honor of hearing from Nil, who was a speaker at our Family Law Institute in Colorado this past summer. And so we connected there. And though we both are in Colorado, we have, I think, a lot to talk about that affects people all around the world, which is the impacts of domestic violence on the family law realm, on children, on spouses. It's usually on women, not always on women, and how we navigate this really complicated topic, which has very much been in the news and has been rapidly changing, with Colorado really one of the first states to press for like very serious legislation in, I guess I'd say in 2024, 2023, where we really have a lot of dramatic changes that a lot of states don't have. So we are going to talk about a lot of things today, including that Nil also created 1 year ago. I just heard 1 year ago tomorrow from the date we record this, an amazing program called the CARE Method, which we're also going to get into. So maybe give us a little bit of your background, Nil, first about how you got into this and
Mhm.
what you're doing now. So before we start talking about how parents and attorneys need to think about this.
Yeah, yes, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here. So, I went to school for clinical mental health counseling, and I wanted to specialize in trauma and substance use disorders. At the time, when I decided to go to school for counseling, I was married to a soldier who had a lot of combat deployments and a lot of mental health issues. There's definitely some coercive control in my marriage. It's so interesting to kind of look back today and to reflect on how, even though I was not a victim of physical abuse in that marriage, there was most certainly coercive control in that relationship. And so my first husband ended up dying of a accidental overdose, and he was an incredible soldier, very brave, very courageous for combat deployments between Iraq and Afghanistan. And so I found myself wanting to work with soldiers, and I thought I am going to school because psychology fascinates me, and I am in the perfect city to help all the soldiers coming back from war. So I went to school
And
for
that was Colorado Springs already.
that was Colorado Springs. We
Yeah,
had
for those who don't know, Colorado Springs is where the U.S. Air Force Academy is, and there's a lot of there's some military bases, and it's big military city. I remember at the conference you talked about the way violence, like that men are much more likely to be violent, and
yes.
women are much more likely to I can't remember what it was. There was something to
To
be
react.
reactive.
Yes, yeah,
So
to
let's
react.
talk with that, and then maybe
Yeah.
include in that talking about this just sort of like the definitions and framing
Mhm.
that, domestic violence, this misconception that it has to be physical,
Yeah, yeah.
and how it's much bigger than.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. So males are many times more likely to cause injury during a domestic violence like incident, or in general when it comes to IPV, intimate partner violence. We know from the research that males are more likely, yes, to cause injury. They are also more likely, and I think that this is so important for the world to understand this. It's not that women cannot be abusive. There are different types of motivations behind abuse. So let me just say that very clearly. Okay. So one example is domination or control, or the need for power and control. And that is a motivation that we see more often behind men's use of violence and men's use of domestic violence tactics. Okay. So males are more likely to want power and control over the victim, over the relationship. And this is rooted in many different things. It can be rooted in societal expectations, which for thousands of years, males have been or were. The world fell into these traditional roles, and men have been deemed to be the providers, and we women were deemed to be the caretakers and the nurturing party and the one that takes care of the family, takes care of the house. And so when it comes to breaking these types of societal beliefs and expectations, it's actually quite difficult, regardless of the fact that we women now, there are so many women around the world now as CEOs, and yes, we can vote, and yes, we can have a career. But you have to keep in mind that when it comes to like core beliefs, core values, it's hard to break those things. And what I'm trying to say is, whether we like it or not, there are still parts of the world where societies they still fall into those traditional gender roles. And so going back to that point of male striving for dominance and power and control, part of the reason is societal expectations, okay? When it comes to women, women are less likely to engage in abuse because they want power and control over their partner. And more than 60% of all cases of women arrested for domestic violence, they are reporting that they were a victim in that particular relationship.
What kind of evaluations are you doing? Are you doing domestic violence evaluations, or are you doing like parental um like custody evaluations, like CFI reports?
So I do domestic, I call my assessments comprehensive domestic violence evaluations. However, I also do substance abuse evaluations for these cases, for domestic relation cases. And I also do mental health evaluations. So I do all three. Sometimes they ask me to combine, sometimes there are allegations of substance abuse and domestic violence, and the courts ordered that the individual pursue substance abuse, NDV, and I do both quite often, actually.
Do you review CFI or PRE reports
Yes,
to see
yes,
if they're missing the point?
yes.
Okay.
Every time. If there has been one, if there has been a complete report by a previous CFI or PRE, I absolutely read that. If they are working with one, oftentimes, and especially here in El Paso County, there are a couple of PRE evaluators that I am familiar with and work with quite often. We get assigned to the same cases, and I've noticed there is this one particular PRE here in town that I appreciate her work so much. I feel like she's one of the best in the state, and she likes to see my reports before she finalizes
Mm.
hers, and I love that so much. I review so much, Krista, like I review the collateral that I review sometimes is beyond like audio recordings, video, text messages, talking parents, transcripts, I speak with witnesses. That's new. I started doing this
Mhm.
approximately
That's
maybe
good.
15, 18 months ago. Um, like survivors cry every time. I interviewed a survivor yesterday. And one of the things that I say to them as soon as they sit down on my couch, I say, after I introduce myself, I will acknowledge knowing, yeah, I will acknowledge that not all survivors, when they are married and unsure if they want to leave their partner, go telling people, and that's understandable. And I realize that oftentimes they only begin to tell family members when they are certain that they want to separate. So I'll acknowledge that for them. And every single time I say that, they start crying. And I do this, Krista, because when they come to me, they are already anxious and nervous, and especially unsure if I'll believe them, because oftentimes they have not been believed before. So I'll say,
Yeah.
listen, I understand that not all victims of abuse tell others or their family members what is going on until you find yourself deciding that you are ready to leave. Once you decided that you wanted to leave, if you did speak to a therapist, to your mom, to a family member, to your best friend. I want to be able to speak with those people,
Yeah.
even if you only said it after you knew that you were going to leave. And this is very consistent in domestic relation cases. Like, oftentimes they actually had not said anything, and I find this to be even more common when there are images to be protected, when I'm evaluating a doctor, when I'm evaluating a commander, when you name it, I've evaluated all of those people. And so you find it that, yeah, like the more well established they are and the more of an image they or career they want to protect, then it's less likely that they have told anyone about what was going on.